Well, good evening, and we're so grateful that we are entering to this week 17 of a part of our lead project. Again, we're thankful for the opportunity to partner with sharEvery Global Foundation and Coach Ramabu and all the coaches. And we're excited today to have Coach Dr. Jeff Springer, who's experienced educator, experienced school leader, educational consultant, to be able to share about the four essentials of organizational leadership. I proudly present to you Dr. Jeff Springer.
I've enjoyed joining you from one week to the next and seeing the growth and the conversation. For me, I hope it's this way for all the participants. I hope that this is the shortest hour of the day because of our conversation. And I want to say a few things before we get started. If I get passionate about some of these topics, so you're going to hear my voice in a lot of this, things that I resonate with in my leadership. And so I hope as you continue to grow in your leadership, you develop your voice as well. So here is one definition. It's not the definition, but this is one definition of organizational leadership, is a strategy that focuses on developing leadership skills across the organization. And again, that's what we've been talking about. And now that here we are in week 3, talking about the different facets of organizational leadership. My title today is really essential elements leading towards successful organizational leadership. This is Springer's secret sauce, so to speak. This is not the 4. These are just 4. These are, so we'll hopefully you'll see and have a grasp and an understanding through our conversation today. So I want to give you, first of all, I'm going to give you the criteria for each one of these elements before I give you the specific elements. And so one of the criteria of the first element is teamwork. And we've got to be able to work with others. It's essential for our leadership that we can create this healthy working relationship that boosts productivity. I mean, I know all of you have probably experienced environments that were positive and environments that were maybe toxic. And it's very difficult. But as a leader, you're going to have to maneuver and navigate and to be able to pull some of that together. But you cannot do it by yourself. No leader accomplishes greatness by themselves. So the first essential element of leading towards successful organizational leadership is what I refer to as cooperative creating. A definition of cooperative there's this enthusiasm that is constructed by cooperative creating. It is the ability of the group to do work, not merely from the individual's ability and attitudes, but also from the ways in which the individuals coordinate, dovetail, and complement the uses of those abilities and attitudes. It is this teamwork. It is co-creating, which essentially invites empowerment and input from other people, and ultimately a better end in mind with cooperative creating. The second element has a criteria of what I call conflict resolution. Leaders need to be able to handle disagreements, because we all know whenever 2 or more are gathered, there's going to be differences of opinions at times, and not always one way to see things. And there's going to have to be and through that conflict is sometimes a crisis of belief. And when there's a crisis of belief, there is also some transformation that can happen. And the only way to resolve conflict is to have effective communication. We need to be able to to share our vision, to be able to communicate, and understand, that everyone in the organization has some type of stake in the outcome. So active listening, open body language. Leaders can build trust and respect by accepting feedback from their team. It's interesting. I was on a conversation just this morning for us at 8 a.m. with a group called Teach Better. And we talked about accepting and delivering feedback and how do we do that? And so modeling openness, being transparent, being vulnerable to your those that you lead, being a willing listener. And so the second element I call impressive empathy. Okay, now this is not a term that I created. This is a term, an educator that I really look up to, and Coach, I'm sure knows who Michael Fullen is. He wrote the book What Effective or What Great Leaders Do, What Great Teachers Do. As leaders, we need to have what he calls impressive empathy. And impressive empathy includes understanding others who disagree with us. That is what makes it impressive. You can have two people on opposite ends of the continuum, opposite ends of the spectrum, but yet can still have a conversation. And the key to that impressive empathy is that you see each member on your team as legitimate. Even if you disagree, you still see that person in their opinion, in their input as a legitimate conversation, you value that. And you're able to have that, someone who is a third party could say, oh my gosh, how can you even be in the same room with that person when you have such differing opinions? And you say, well, that is what you call impressive empathy. To continue with that, Jorge Perez says the vital, if not indispensable role of impressive empathy for those who disagree with us. Impressive empathy is important because effective leadership must involve and motivate people affected by change. Motivating people, after all, is what change is all about. And you're not going, I don't believe that, I've never seen it happen where you motivate people to move forward if you're not respecting and actively listening to their feedback or their opinions. Everyone needs to have a seat around the table. All of us together are smarter than any one of us. And we've talked about impressive empathy. Now, criteria for the third is problem solving. Again, one of the essential elements towards successful organizational leadership is problem solving. And leaders are often the ones that colleagues look for advice and help. And although we do listen, we do have ultimately the final say. The buck stops. But how do we get there is so important. So this one, I love, again, along with impressive empathy and cooperative creating, I love this one. This is called positive deviance. Let's watch a short clip on this to illustrate this. I don't know if all of you have seen this movie before, but it's a clip from a movie called Patch Adams. I just absolutely love that clip. And positive deviance should be the aspect of a leader's ability to see things differently, that we anticipate what might go wrong with our plans. It's essentially to identify the elephants of the room. Sometimes we have to have those difficult conversations, but we also cannot be afraid to share an opinion that deviates from the norm, but will be positive for our school. I love this. I look beyond the problem as leaders, see what no one else can see. So we've talked about cooperative creating. We've talked about impressive empathy, positive deviance. And the fourth one is the leadership development. I love this. If I'm not doing this, if I'm not doing something like what we're doing today, and that was what I loved about being the principal. That's what I loved about being a teacher and a coach. And that's what I love about what I'm doing now as a professor at a university, developing teachers, and teachers are leaders. I think that's one of the, sometimes we refer or we immediately think that the leader is the administrators on campus, but we're all leaders. We have student leaders, we have teacher leaders, we have principal leaders, we have leaders at all levels. And I think it's important that we're building capacity at all levels. If you influence one person, you are a leader. The question is what kind of leader do you want? And that's the question that I pose to my students. That's the question I pose to teachers. People assume that they don't want the leadership role because they think that's way too much responsibility. Well, whether your title is leader or not, you lead every day by your words and your actions and all your communications. So this must be more than just preparing for succession. It's about building ongoing, critical and strategic thinking skills that can lead to better decision making. I love this. It can lead to innovation. And don't we all want to be innovators? And don't we want to develop innovators? Accountability is so important, to hold each other accountable to, in our coaching and our mentoring, to build morale. Just, by if you're the leader and you communicate that you see your staff and those you work with as leaders, again, going back to that legitimate word, you are legitimizing their role. You build that morale, and when you build that morale, you continue to increase, efficiency. I don't really, effectiveness, I prefer over efficiency, but there are times that we need to be efficient. Effectiveness is always overshadows efficiency when it comes to people. We're in the people business, but we do also need to be able to manage our time and to make sure that what matters most is never sacrificed, as Stephen Covey says, for what matters least. So the final essential element is what I refer to as persistent passion. Persistence is the ability to keep pushing forward despite any obstacles or setbacks that may arise. Passion is the first step in any journey to success. It's that enthusiasm and drive to pursue a goal, no matter how difficult it may seem. And it's sometimes we have days where we have to find that passion, and we have to reignite our vision and our mission. And, and we've got to be persistent in that pushing forward. So we talked about cooperative creating. Again, no one is an island. No one is achieving greatness alone. I know that each one of you on this call today can list off the top of your head those people that have been so instrumental in your life, that have helped you along the way and has given you a platform to grow and to go down this journey and to see things come to fruition that you thought would never, because of their love and their support and their guidance. And it is so important. And then this impressive empathy, being thoughtful of others' opinions and their backgrounds and their the things in their life that they've overcome, that their premises, to allow them to bring those things to the table, to see them as legitimate, and to grow, with them. And really here is where transformation can happen. Again, my doctorate was in transformational leadership. And one of the very first definitions of transformational learning that was shared with me in one of my classes or coursework was that we sometimes have to have a crisis of belief, where it causes our thinking to have a dilemma, that we perhaps were thinking one way for a very long time, and then it was like a window or a door opens, and we see that there perhaps is more than one way to do something. And so transformation happens. So impressive empathy. And the third one was this positive deviance, that we look beyond the problem, that we seek new opportunity. And sometimes it goes again. Sometimes you are going to find yourself in the minority of thinking, but we know that in history that the majority is not always the best. And so as a leader, sometimes you have to, through this organizational leadership, through these soft skills, you have to sometimes stand on what you believe, and because what is best for the organization is sometimes not always the most popular. And then the last one, again, is this persistent passion. And, there are a lot of people out there that, that we wish could find their passion, and so as the leader of an organization, I think again, going back to that leadership development, it is our job to guide and to coach and to mentor those that we lead towards their passion. And maybe there's some that started off with a passion, but they've lost the joy. They've been beaten down in the minutia of the job, so to speak, and they've lost their play, they've lost their way. And so we have got to help them through that, and help them reconnect with their passion. Sometimes sometimes we have to, I don't know how you feel about this, but sometimes we have to fake it until we feel it. You have to get back on back in the game, and get off the sidelines, get off the bench sometimes. And we need to be persistent even through the struggle. And so ultimately, what all four of these do is which is our ultimate goal. Whether you're a teacher, or whether you are running a company, or whether you're a principal, or whatever your role is, if you're over curriculum, whatever it is, ultimately, don't we want engagement? Ultimately, we want engagement. And engagement does not just happen because you walk into the room. It does not just happen because you might have the title. It might initially, but it won't consistently unless we incorporate these essential elements towards leading towards successful organizational leadership. And so, again, cooperative creating, impressive empathy, positive deviance, persistent passion, leading to ultimately what we all want in our leadership is engagement. As a student, as a teacher, we are always we are looking for volunteers. I mean, just because we have all of this knowledge that we want to disseminate, and we still need volunteer learners. So what is it that we're going to do to bridge that? How do we create the engagement that we desire as a classroom teacher? And so take that same scenario and elevate it to a different level, and from an administrative standpoint to the teachers. How do we get engagement? What are the things that we need to do to engage our staff? And so we've got to take this holistic approach. There's no silver bullet. There's no direct line. The essential elements are here before us, and we must be willing to take those steps towards bridging those gaps, which increases engagement. I like to say the future is today. We talk a lot of times, we attend something like this, and then we get excited about it, and then we leave it at the conference, or we leave it wherever we learned it. So the future's today, and there's no guarantee for tomorrow. One of the things that I do in my coaching with administrators and teachers and in my mentoring is to which one of these areas do you feel you need the most work, and then help them create what I call a 3x6, 3 things to demonstrate whichever one of these elements that they want to work on. And those must be measurable. That was a whirlwind. I mean, that was like, that was a sprint. But one of the things I want to remind all of us is that what we do every day is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so we've got to pace ourselves if we're going to be able to incorporate those essential elements in our organizational leadership.
Well, thank you very much, Coach Springer.